Okay, today's the day. It is clue 10 of the Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilt, and I have all these pieces. We're ready to put them all together and see the big reveal. I also have our clue 10, which has some candies and some of the border pieces and stuff like that. And I think this big piece is the binding. So we're ready to put it together. Oh, and the instructions. Before we do that, my name is Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance. Thank you so much for joining me as we finish up this puzzle mystery quilt. So let's go to the design board and I'll show you step 1 for making the center. We'll sew it together and keep going and building this out. So let's talk about this center. This is the part we're going to put together first. So I have in the center section, which is on the second page, and we are to join 4B, 9B, and 2B, which are right here. And you're gonna make 2 of these. That's why I have them set up this way. We are also gonna go to number 2, and we are going to sew these 2 units together, and then we'll arrange. So I'm gonna go do that now, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I'm back with these sewn. And I wanted to show you this part because this is important. This one of these gets flipped and put on this side. And that's gonna give us our center. Now, it is a little muddy, like I was concerned about, but you know what? We're just gonna keep trusting the process. It doesn't have a lot of contrast, but that's okay. I guess not all quilts have to have a lot of contrast, right? I do love this ribbon look around the outside. Oh, and one last thing I forgot to mention is I did label all of these with some tape, just so I knew which were which. And I did that before I even started putting things together. So that's just a tip for you. I am gonna sew these together, meet you back here, and we're gonna move on to the next part of this construction. Okay, the center is sewn together, the very center. Now we're gonna do the side panels. We're gonna make 2 of them. So I'm gonna remove this. Oh, one last thing. I did put a safety pin up here. You wanna make sure you know what the top is. It can get turned around really easily, and I found that out when I was making the scrappy version, which I will show you today. I'm going to take this down. We're gonna lay out the other sections. There we go. I have them together. Let's see. Okay, so we're doing 8B, 6B, and 4A. Okay, so here they are. We're making 2, and it's gonna go on each side of our centerpiece here. Okay, I'm gonna sew these together, and you know what? I'm just gonna keep sewing. I'm gonna sew them to the sides of the center unit too. Make sure that you're pressing the correct way. Now, all of the seams are not lining up the way I thought they would. They don't nest necessarily, but they're pretty good. So I do have to go in and press some the correct direction. Not a big deal though. All right, I'm gonna sew these together and sew it to the side. I'll meet you back here. Okay, so here is the center unit. I like it. It's coming together nicely. I definitely love this turquoise. I just think it sets it off. Very nice. All right, so next up, grab my sheet here. Next up, we're going to make the 2nd and 4th rows. All right, so that's going to go up here and down here. It looks like we make 2 of them. I'm going to take this down, lay that out. Okay, I think that's right. Hopefully you can see that. I'll step out of the way. Kind of hangs off. I'm going to sew these rows together, and then I will attach it to our center unit too. Okay, so it's building out. It's looking great. This is gonna be awesome. So my hair's up. That always means I'm down to business and working hard, right? This is together. This is row 2. This is the middle. This is row 3. So we still need to do row 1 and row 5 and then the borders. But this is looking really nice. I only had trouble right here, and I had the trouble on both. I don't know why these didn't line up. Everything else lined up really well, but these points did not. It might have been my error when I was making it. I believe these blocks were made at different times, so I can't imagine I made the same error twice, but whatever. It's not super noticeable, but it is off. That's okay, right? It's okay. It's not gonna be perfect. I'm not perfect. All right, so I'm gonna take this down off of the design wall and lay out rows 1 and 5, show you those, and then I'll sew them together, sew them on, put the borders on. Oh, we're almost done. All right, so we do have a little issue. It's easily fixed, no big deal. It could have been just my kit. I don't think I cut these. Maybe I did. I don't think so, but this D piece is way too long. It was cut wrong either by me or the company. Not a big deal. I am going to cut this down before I sew it onto this unit. But this is the way the layout is for the 1st row and the 5th row. So I am gonna trim it down to the right size, and then we'll get to assembling. So this will go here. Actually, let me cut these down first. I did have to cut off about 2.5 inches, a little bit more actually, to make this fit. Also, you can see that this is really close to this fabric. It's really hard to distinguish the difference. When you see my scrappy version, you'll see how pretty this is with the border, but it's really hard to see on this one. All right, so now I'll move this guy over so you can get a better idea. And then once we have the seam allowances in, this will line up, this piece over here, these guys. All right, same thing here. And I like to lay it all out on the wall just because it just makes it easier for me with sewing. You don't have to do it this way. You can just lay it out on a table or the floor or whatever works for you. Speaking of which, this design board is from the Missouri Star Quilt Company's tutorial on how to make a design board for on your wall. I'll link it in the descriptions. I always get comments. I just don't have mine on the wall. I just have it freestanding so I can move it around. Eventually, someday it'll be on the wall. All right, I'm gonna get to sewing. And I'll make these units, bring them back before I sew them onto the full body of the quilt, just so you can see them, because they are a little bit more complicated. Follow the directions on our sheet of the order to sew these in. It'll make your life a lot easier. And as always, follow the pressing instructions. Okay, so these two are done. I only had issue with one piece. Which was it? I think it was this one. Here, I had to trim it down some. I don't know if that was a mistake in the pattern. I doubt it. It was probably me. But if you have that same mistake, just know, easily fixed, just trim it up. That's all I did, and it worked out beautifully. All right, so now I do have the center ready to go, like you saw. This one gets flipped around. I'll show you. Okay, just like that. This will be the bottom row or the 5th row. This will be the 1st row, and we'll put, dropping things, this in between. And I think there is a right or wrong way. There is. Okay, I'll make sure I do that, and I'll meet you back here with the final product. So exciting. Okay, you ready to see? Here it is. All right, I'll also put an inset picture in because I realize you can't see the whole thing, but it's really pretty. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so I do have the borders to put on, which are right here. So the wider borders go at the top, like this. Okay, way up here. And then the side borders are skinnier. And I think, let me see. Oh, the side borders go on first. So I'm gonna add the borders. Actually, do I wanna add the borders? I'm not sure, what do you think? It won't take much to add the borders, so I am gonna add them. Yeah, I'm gonna add them. I'll do that now. Okay, it's done with the borders. Here, we'll flip it around. You can see the borders there, and I'll put up on the screen a full-length picture of it with the borders. Now, the borders were longer than the actual quilt, which, if you've watched me long enough, you know how much I hate that. So I did cut them down to the right size, making sure to measure through the middle of the quilt and taking the average so it will square it up and it won't wave when it's quilted. But I'm sure that this was done because everybody, you know, might not have a good seam allowance or whatever, you know, I'm sure there was a reason there was extra. So it makes me think that that one piece from before was longer on purpose maybe, which is fine, that's fine. It all worked out. It is not my style of colors. I thought it would be, but it's not. So much more like Southwestern. I'm not sure if I'm gonna finish this or give it away or give it to our team at our quilt guild that does donations. They'll have somebody machine quilt this and it'll go to a good home, just because it's not my style. If I were to do it again, I would absolutely make sure that the colorway that I picked had a lot of contrast, all of the fabric, especially since I don't know the design. And to do that, I would just take a picture of the screen or the colorway that I was thinking about and put it into black and white and see if the contrast is there. That's how I would approach it. But that's me. If you like this look, that's wonderful. We're so different as quilters and everything is good. I mean, there's no right or wrong way, right? And there's not one right or wrong taste. Anyway, it's time to show you the scrap quilt, which I absolutely love. Here it is. It's all finished, it's all bound, everything. Here's a full-length picture of it. I am in love with this one. It's very fall-like. Now, if I were to do this again, and if I would have done scrappy, I would have been a little bit more careful. Well, maybe. The one thing I don't like is because of the layout, you can see that the center medallion, see how one of the fabrics in that 9 patch is different? It kind of looks weird because of that. I still love it. I think it's a great quilt. It's definitely scrappy. It's definitely wonderful. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of contrast in this one, which I really like too. I do have a wonderful pattern, however, and I could make another one now that I know what it looks like that would make my anxiety go down a little bit. This is a great pattern, great layout. All of it is wonderful, and the company's wonderful too. I hope you enjoyed this series. I can't wait to share with you all the other stuff I have planned. Unfortunately, I won't be going forward with the Puzzle Mystery Quilt series just because I don't like mystery quilts, and I knew that from the beginning, and I should have just stuck with what I knew. If you love mystery quilts, this is the way to go. It's a lot of fun, or they tell me it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of anxiety with it, but if you love them, this is the way to go. It's a great company, and I have nothing but great things to say about them. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you take some time to sew, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.